You know, some people age like a fine wine, and some people age like a can of special brew left on a hot windowsill. Whichever one you are, get ready to talk about those pesky little emotions of yours, because it's time for another episode of I've Had a Rosé, Let's Talk About Feelings. Please welcome your host, Sam Lake. It was me the whole time. Oh, sorry to cut this chat about gay porn tropes short, but we have to. A bloody episode of I've Had a Rosé, Let's Talk About Feelings. I am once again here, hello, and it's a bit of a crossover because my guest today is the wonderful George Fox.
It's me! Whoa. Toxic male comedian. Let's talk about lads.
Lad culture. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited today to do my topic, which is Zoo magazine from the early 2000s. Oh, it's great.
I had you more down as a nuts man.
Yeah, I was going to say nuts. And then
nuts
I was
or zoo, but no, zoo's a good choice as well.
I felt like if I said nuts, producer Claire behind the camera would be like, don't say nuts. Don't say it.
You can say nuts.
Oh, not the way I say it.
You just can't say nutsies. She has a problem with that. Oh, you sort of have to listen to the last episode to get some context on that. You, of course, host the official Monkey Barrel podcast.
Well, it's not the only one now. There's a few. But
well, yes.
Yes, I host Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show where when guest comedians are visiting Edinburgh, they sit down, have a little chat with them, ask them some very silly questions. My favorite question recently was, what's the largest pig you can imagine? Which I like. I like that a lot.
What was it?
They said the size of a room, which I think is appropriate. Any bigger than that, it's too big.
Well, yes, but then that begs the question, like, what room? Banquet hall? Ballroom?
It's great. I see. That's why you should be hosting it as well.
Well,
you should be hosting all the podcasts. You'd be asking this. I just accepted
all
it.
Sam, all the time.
Just change it to Sam Comedy. That's the name of the venue, the podcast, everything.
I'd love to say it has a good ring to it, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Do you love hosting it?
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. You really get to know people because there's a bit in the show where we take somebody's social media, one of their old posts, put it up on the screen and just say, hey, explain this to us. What is this? Yeah. And it always kind of shakes people awake. Because we film quite early, and then people are just like, oh, okay. Oh, okay, wow. All right, let me explain that. So they jump back in time.
Wow.
It's good fun.
Good fun.
Yeah.
You love fun.
I don't know.
Okay.
Fun's all right. Fun's overrated.
40 minutes. Well, let's start with your drink of choice.
Yes.
And it feels niche.
Oh, how dare you?
I've seen it in a supermarket before and didn't realise it has the background that it does. Would you like to explain to people what your drink is?
So this is Club Orange. This is, I'll pick it up and show people. This is Club Orange.
Do a little, beauty influencer.
Club Orange. Oh, you didn't even show that logo. It's a beautiful, beautiful drink from Ireland. This is the drink that Fanta wishes it was.
Oh,
really
you're really putting it on a pedestal now.
Oh, I you know what? I can stand behind it. It's a wonderful Irish drink. And also, it wasn't something that was sold in Germany during the 1940s, which I believe Fanta was.
Just to be clear, we're against that.
We're against that. We don't like that.
We don't like it.
And that's why I don't drink Fanta.
Fair enough. Good for you for taking a stand.
I like to take a step. If I see it on the shelves, I put it back, I push it back further and bring the Club Orange in front of it.
Fair enough. But you said you found this in... is it like the world's food section?
So Sainsburys has a world food section. Like it's a full aisle.
Yeah.
But they have one shelf that's just for Irish stuff. And it's Club Orange and brown sauce, chef sauce, which is like an Irish like condiment that's very, very nice. You can get tomato chef sauce, brown chef sauce, and they're so, so good. They're the best sauces. And then also they have Tato crisps.
I was going to say no Tato's.
They've made a terrible error because there's Republic of Ireland Tato crisps.
Oh boy!
And then there's Northern Ireland Tato crisps.
Okay.
And they're very different. They don't taste the same at all. They have similar character logos. I don't know how that's allowed, but they have the Northern Irish ones, and I was like, disgusting.
You can taste the northern.
You can taste it. I can taste that I'm not welcome.
Oh, well, I can't wait to sip this and decide what part of Ireland I'll feel welcome in. Oh,
very exciting.
Should we have a little sip?
So you've never had Club Orange before?
As far as I'm aware, no.
So there is, famously in Ireland, there's Club Orange, and then there's Club Orange, there's Club Orange, then there's Club Lemon, and then there's a drink called Club Rock Shandy, and that's orange and lemon mixed together.
Okay.
And that is the true nectar of the gods. That is incredible.
It's a cocktail.
Yeah, it's it's a cocktail for kids.
It's a cocktail.
Yeah.
It's a kiddie cocktail.
Give me a little rock shandy.
In Utah,
yeah,
where Mormonism is very popular.
Yes.
And so even though drinking alcohol is not illegal, most places, most bars don't have it. You can go there and you can make yourself a cocktail, but made up of different soft drinks, kind of like the machines you get when you go to like a Five Guys or a Burger King.
Yeah,
and you can
mix
just pour
everything.
whatever. Yeah. And that's how you get your kicks as a Mormon.
I think I remember watching a BBC documentary about some weird little Mormon area. It was like a guy, a rich billionaire who was a Mormon or millionaire.
Yeah.
Basically built a town into this big rock face in the middle of like the Nevada desert.
Oh, right.
And it
okay.
was all just these houses just built into it, and there was Mormons living in it. And it was one of my favorite series ever because there's a guy and he has 2 wives and they hate each other so much. And then he's now discovered like a 20-year-old girl that he now also wants to marry. Oh no! Oh my god! What a surprise!
So finding more wives.
And they're just like rolling their eyes all the time at him. And then halfway through the series, his brother sadly passes away, but his brother leaves in the will, I want you to take care of and marry my 2 wives. And here's what's incredible. The brother is way better looking than the first guy, and his wives are gorgeous.
The one who died?
The one who died. His wives are gorgeous. Right. So the brother is like, oh, well, I've got to do what my brother wants. You know, I have to do this.
It's like you thought you were going on holiday to a gorgeous resort in Greece, and it turns out you're going to Minehead Butlins.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. So he has to like approach his wives with this, and they're like, hold on, you wanted to marry a 20-year-old girl, and now you're bringing your 2 sisters-in-law that you're going to marry them. And he keeps trying to broach it and trying to get everyone on board. And he's like, well, my brother's put it in his will, so we have to do it. And then he finally meets the 2 women. And they're both like, nah, we're not even going to be Mormons anymore. That's the choice that they make.
And you know what? Good on them.
Good on them, 100%.
Because it feels like the men are talking about the women almost as if like they are shepherds.
Yeah, like a little commodity.
Make sure you keep the women in the fence and you lock the gate, otherwise they might run away.
It's just weird because his brother was so sick and he was just like fist bumping him like, yo, bro, I got your back. Have my 2 wives.
Well... for us monogamists,
yes,
let's have a little sip of this.
Oh yes,
let's have a little sip. Well, you've already had it many times, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. But still, it's been a while.
Can I just say it looks very cloudy? Oh, hello.
Yes, right.
That's fun.
That is a lot of fun.
This is orange, you say?
This is orange. And then in Ireland, there's a cocktail where you can mix this with Captain Morgan's. And it tastes like that ice cream super split. Have you ever had that? Where it's like orange ice cream on the outside, orange ice on the outside, and then like vanilla ice cream on the inside.
Yes. They're lovely. It tastes like actual orange juice that you've run through like a soda stream.
Yeah.
Whereas Fanta tastes like soda that's had orange added to it.
Yes.
And I was saying this looks cloudy, so like because Fanta's kind of clearer, you can see through it.
Yeah. This is legit.
Very interesting.
That's everyone's reaction when they try it. They're like, oh, okay. All right.
Well, because normally if I'm telling somebody to try something, I'm actually recommending it because it's probably terrible. I think that's the thing that gay men do a lot, is that we recommend stuff to see how other people go like, this is awful. And be like, I know, I thought you'd hate it.
And you go, right, isn't it terrible?
Yeah, isn't it bad?
Can't we both
Don't
hate
you
on
want to
it
throw
now?
up? Yeah, that's delightful. I'm going to keep that between my thighs.
It's good fun.
Just so it's an easy access. What a lovely drink.
I know.
Good
I
find.
knew. I suddenly
Very
realized.
solid.
Because I was thinking about, things to talk about or drinks to bring in.
Yeah.
And I thought about Cherry Pepsi Max. And then I also thought about pro wrestling. But Ed Gamble took both of those.
He did take those, yes.
Both of those.
Yeah.
Liam Withnail took video games, which is insane. To just, what a blanket thing to take.
Well, we could have done a specific video game.
That's what I think he should have done. I think he should have done that, but he did all of video games. So in this episode, I'm just doing sound. anything that you hear, that's mine. Nobody can.
Everything
music
that exists in the audible landscape.
Yeah, that's mine. That's for this episode.
I mean, that isn't your topic.
No,
but
it's
if
not.
it was, the question I'd ask is, what's your favorite noise?
Oh my goodness. I think it's when somebody gets hurt on the internet and the person behind the camera goes, "Oh geez." That's my favorite thing. There's always like a guy's like, "I'm gonna jump off the roof," and he jumps off, and you hear clink, and then you hear the guy on the camera go, "Oh Mark, oh wow."
Are they Canadians?
They can't. A lot of the time they are.
Oh gee.
Oh gee. Oh wow, call an ambulance.
I think my favorite noise would probably be from those videos as well, but like when somebody gets like hit in the nuts, the friend that's next to them, and they sort of like crease over, and then when they try to make a noise, it just comes out as a wheeze.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it because I've never laughed like that in my life. But like,
Just that sound where they can't even.
Or do you know, just a humble oh, like that. Because it's like you were surprised, but in a good way.
Margaret, call an ambulance. Oh.
Let's talk about your real topic, though.
My real topic.
Because I would say this topic is also quite broad.
Yeah.
I
knew this.
There's a lot in it.
Yeah.
So you've gone for horror.
I've gone for horror. And what kind of horror could it be? It's everything.
I would say there's no greater horror than what's happening to this beautiful country of ours. I'm just kidding. I think you said horror meaning like scary films, scary TV shows, things like that,
books, things like that. Not just the nightmare of being alive.
Are you a big horror fan?
Yeah.
Of any specific genre? Because my first thing was like horror. There's thrillers. There's like psychological stuff.
Yeah.
There's like something like Saw or like Hostel, where it's like more like torture gore,
porn kind of thing. Yeah. There's slashers, I think, are
slashers.
Very good as well.
Yeah.
Slashers are good. I mean, I like the stuff that's what's called now is elevated horror, which is like not garbage. So stuff like The Shining, Hereditary.
Yeah,
those are great. But I'm still a fan of like slashers that are like really camp and silly. Like I like that as well. I like the Friday the 13th.
Big old camp quality to
Yeah, 100%.
And that's usually to do with the production value.
Yeah, there's not a lot of money spent, and the actors are usually not very talented. The actors that you see in a lot of those movies never appear in anything again.
No.
And then sometimes it's like, oh, is that Kevin Bacon? That's Kevin Bacon. Okay.
Well, you say that, but Jamie Lee Curtis was in all the Halloween movies.
Yeah, she's one of the few scream queens that got out of that, but I think she just disappeared and kind of.
I do enjoy the term scream queen.
Oh, it's great. And she's like the number one scream queen, but I wouldn't even consider her a scream queen. Like she's such a great comedic actor and dramatic actor in other things.
She sure is. She just won an Oscar.
Yeah. I feel like scream queens is usually just this person has been in 6 movies and then retired and is now a veterinarian. That's about it.
Well, I think there are other scream queens. So I watch it. We were talking about Drag Race before we started. Yeah. And there is a sort of like horror version of Drag Race called Dragula.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's essentially the same type of show, but every runway and thing is horror themed, and they're usually paying homage to different tropes
kind of things
in horror. So like they might have a vampire week, or I think one week they did the Cenobites from Hellraiser.
Yeah, I think the first episode of RuPaul's Drag Race I saw was like season 4, and that first episode had like a zombie theme.
Yeah, and it was like an apocalyptic.
Yeah. So I was watching it, and then somebody came out and they were dressed like one of the nurses from Silent Hill, the horror video game, and then somebody else was dressed like Dennis Hopper from like Waterworld.
Yes, they came up with flotation devices.
Yeah, and somebody else was like just dressed like as a zombie bad guy from some other horror movie, and I was just watching it, just going like, oh, this is great. And then they were making like puns of like weird like cult movies I liked from the 80s, and I was like, I was watching like, oh, this show's for me. This is my jam.
Because I think I probably remember every episode of Drag Race because I've seen every one twice. The guest on that one was a horror icon, Elvira.
Yes, Elvira, yeah.
And she was the champion of like those very campy jokes where it would be like, oh no, how's your head? And we're like, haven't had any complaints yet. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the great moments where RuPaul would say, how's your head? And the person's like, well, I'm just in it right now at the moment. And everyone's looking like, do you not get this joke? Come on.
Yeah.
No joke.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard it so many times. I think if somebody said it to me, how's your head? I'd be like, My head feels fine, but you should really see me suck a dick. Someone's going to use that.
Yeah.
Someone's going to use that.
It's going to turn up on RuPaul's Drag Race for sure.
Claire is looking at us like, we can't use any of this.
Can't use any of this. This is all good stuff. This is all gold.
This is gold. Nazi gold? No.
No!
I'm stopping. No.
Even annoyed you now. Now we know we've blown it.
Was there a particular thing that got you into liking horror? Was it something that you discovered when you were younger?
So I think very much like in the 90s growing up that like a lot of the TV show that was for kids kind of set you up to be a horror fan.
Yeah.
So there were shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Goosebumps.
There was a show called Erie, Indiana that was amazing.
I vaguely remember that. Yes.
Yeah, it was good fun. And and then also there was horror movies like there was like things that got kids into horror like Hocus Pocus and
Oh yeah, okay.
just spooky Tim Burton movies like what is it the
Nightmare Before
Christmas, Edward Scissorhands. That's
Yeah,
very much
yeah.
like, oh, you're gonna be a goth whether you like it or not. You're gonna like spooky shit. So I think I was kind of predestined to enjoy horror.
Yeah.
And then it was a weird kind of period in the 90s and early 2000s where there wasn't a lot of good horror being made at all. So you would have to kind of delve into like DVDs and VHS tapes of like old movies. So you felt like an archivist going like, I'm gonna watch this movie. It's from 1971. What? A million years ago.
Yes, there is sort of like it's a cult thing where to get the good stuff you have to like go do your research. It's not maybe as accessible as some.
Yeah, and it's different from now where you would see an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race and you're like, all of the drag queens are making jokes about horror movies that I 100% get. And then back then you would go on like message boards and be like, I watched this movie called The Evil Dead. Has anyone ever seen that? And like, it's one of the most famous movies ever now.
Yeah.
But back then, people just didn't talk about it.
They just didn't talk about it. No.
Cowards.
Do you have a particular favourite film?
I think
horror genre?
my favorite horror. I think my favorite film, full stop, is John Carpenter's The Thing. Have you ever seen that?
Is that? I think I get The Thing confused with The Blob.
Yeah, The Blob is like quite a camp, silly, big monster that absorbs people.
Yeah,
and The Thing is. So I remember a couple of years ago, like we were all snowed in from that Beast of the East, and I said, "Oh, we'll put on The Thing because it takes place in the Arctic." So me and my partner were watching it, and it's about like 12 guys who are in an Arctic base, and there's an alien that they uncover, and it can look like anyone. So there's this weird paranoia of like who could be the thing, like who would, how can we tell, how will we figure this out? And I remember watching it. My partner was like, "God, could you imagine like being around all these guys and not knowing which one of them is a monster?" And I was like, I'm a comedian. I work with male comedians all the time. Every time I'm in a green room, I'm thinking, which one of these is secretly a monster? That's my life. I've lived this movie. But it's just such a great movie. Such a tense movie. And Kurt Russell's so fucking good in it. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think there's ever been a more handsome man in history. He rocks that beard in that movie.
Wow.
Rude. Well, sorry.
Okay.
Listen, just bring out the rest of the beard and maybe I'll be like, hey, remake The Thing.
I used to have a full beard.
I need to see a picture of that after this.
I'll show you afterwards. I'll show you afterwards.
In The Thing. You could go in and be like, how do we know that, Sam, that you're not The Thing? And you could say, well, ask me how my head is. That's how you know.
And back in the 70s, that would have been quite a ceremony to make. The fun thing about a lot of horror films, I think, as you said, because they've got like a campness to them, and sometimes they're made on like a smaller budget, you can really enjoy a terrible, scary film. Yeah. So I think this isn't quite what I mean, but I think probably the first scary film that I saw was actually Scary Movie, which was the parody of the first Scream film and a couple other tropes in there.
Random horror movies mixed in.
And then that got me into the real Scream films and like, what's that one? I
Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yes, that's the one. But you can like watch a really bad horror movie and just enjoy it for how bad it is. I think there's one where it's a decapitated woman, but her head is still alive.
Oh, yeah.
And she seems like quite a well-to-do actress.
Yeah.
But she's having to play like a dismembered head on a tray and she's got like wires come out of her head, and then she's playing next to like the worst male actor who's just like saying, who's delivering all of his lines so deadpanly but not intentionally. She'll just be like, look at what they've done to me, I feel awful, and he'll be like, yes, I can see that is difficult for you.
Yeah, there's a wonderful combination of like just random people they've brought in off the street to appear in a movie, and then someone from RADA who's like, this is my big break, and they're giving it their all. They're like, I'm head in tray, and I'm going to own this role.
Put Dame Maggie Smith in Scream 7.
I would love that so much. I would love that.
Put up with any nonsense.
Oh, there'd be some scene where the guy would come over with a knife, and she'd be like, no,
I don't think so. No. Do you have a bad horror film?
The worst horror movie I've ever seen is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation.
Is that the new one that I think was on Netflix recently?
No, so that one's also terrible. This was maybe in the 90s. So this featured Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
It's been remade a few times, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But this movie's so weird that the end of the movie is Renee Zellweger running away, and then a plane comes down out of the sky and flies into Matthew McConaughey and then flies away. And then she jumps into a limousine, and that's the end of the movie. And there's no context given for anything. We don't know who flew that plane. We don't know why they were doing what they were doing. It makes no sense. And
where does she get the British accent from? How did she become a journalist in the UK?
Makes no sense.
Why is she with Colin Firth?
Why did they kill off Colin Firth in the third one? It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Well, they killed off Hugh Grant.
Oh, did they kill off Hugh Grant?
They killed off Hugh Grant.
I thought they killed off Colin.
Claire's eyes were burning a hole in your head.
I thought it was the other way around.
No, but I think
he was the one to kill off then. That's fine.
Yeah, but I think they're making a new one, and I think he's coming back.
Oh, well, that's going to be great.
It's going to be lovely.
Zombie Hugh Grant.
Yeah, zombie Hugh Grant. Yeah. And he wants brains.
So the last one was called The Edge of Reason.
Yeah.
And this one's going to be called I don't know.
The unaliving of hope.
That sounds like an Avengers title.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, she's in the Avengers now as well.
Oh, good. I think she's going to be great, making catty comments and turning up to fancy dress parties in inappropriate clothing. That's going to be great. Can't deal with that.
Yeah. Did you say they're in like Friday? Is it Friday the 13th with Freddy Krueger?
No, it's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, okay. Yes, that makes sense. Because she would say something like, well, I've always wanted the man of my dreams, but this is a bit much.
Yes! I wish that was real.
Hey, Renee, how's your head? It's fine, thank you. Do you want a blowy? Etc.
Hey,
the
Renee.
script writes itself.
Or he goes, hey, Renee, how's your head? In a tray. And it's Dame Judi Dench's head in a tray.
And it doesn't even matter that they're calling her Renee and not Bridget anymore.
Yeah.
They're so easy to write.
I just feel like we're at a point where Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger can just be called their names in movies now. We don't need the pretense. Just go straight into it.
Yeah.
Have you? Is there any kind of movie horror series that you like?
It's not usually the type of thing that I would go and seek out, which I think I had written this down, that horror seems to be very trendy amongst queer people, at least recently. And I think it also has to do with how the horror genre is now going into other mediums like video games. Yeah. Because you have games like Dead by Daylight or The Quarry.
Yeah, Silent Hill is coming back.
The Devil Within.
The Evil Within.
Evil Within.
Yeah.
So, and it seems to have spread, and it seems like a lot of queer people sort of latching on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I do think it's having a bit of a resurgence. Do you think that?
I think so. I think it's kind of always had that in that community. Like, have you ever seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2?
I think I have.
So that's known as the gay Nightmare on Elm Street, where there's like the guy who wrote the script.
Because one of them in the film, they have a nightmare where some people go like, he's having a nightmare about being gay or something.
Well, so the first one is like Freddy Krueger is killing people in their nightmares. And then the second one is this guy has hit puberty and he keeps having these nightmares about this man, and he then he feels like he's slowly turning into Freddy Krueger.
Oh, right.
he, you know, then comes to two and he's like in a gay bar at one point in the movie. And then like there's all these scenes with his friends. So the guy that wrote it is gay and like was like, I'm putting in deep subtext that this is a guy figuring out his sexuality and the fear and terror of figuring out his sexuality. But didn't tell the director this, didn't tell the actor this. So they just were like, oh, that's weird. It's weird we're doing this scene where me and my male friend are in our pajamas and we're just dancing. Like they didn't clock it. And then it was slowly over time that like the queer community discovered this movie and went like, oh, there's something else going on there. Yeah. They were like, this is something else. And then it was only when the people started to approach the writer, especially on Twitter over the last like 10 years or so, he was just like, yeah, that's what it is. I didn't hide it. It's very clear that that's what it is. It's very interesting. I think there's a whole documentary about it online, which is the guy that played that character going back and discussing and meeting the writer and being like, I really wish you told me, because that guy later realized he was gay and he was like, I wish I'd known so I could have, you know, played it that way or understood what I was doing or understood the movie, because there was bits in it where he was like, you know, embarrassed because it didn't do as well as the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but it's probably become one of the most cherished ones.
You think that you would tell the actor like the direction?
Yeah, you would say like, hey, look, here's the subtext of this. Yeah, like here's why you have turned into Freddy Krueger and you're beating up your coach naked with a hose in the showers. Like there's something else going on here on a different level.
You want to be the hose.
Yeah, or you're dealing with your emotions in some way or your attractions. But like none of that, this is all, there's no subtext.
Yeah.
Everything's very clearly right in your face. And it's like, the writer probably should have sat down and said like, hey, director. But I guess he thought like, well, it's 1984 or 5. If I say this, the producers are going to be like, whoa, no, take that out. So he's just like, I'll just write the script.
It has to be so subtle.
Yeah.
That even the people working on it might not realize.
Yeah, but once you know that and you watch the movie, you're just like, this is not subtle at all. It's obvious.
Not subtle at all. And also, I think that was maybe around the time where there was like a decade there where people were getting into making sort of like movies that were intentionally explicit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Showgirls.
Yes.
Where it was like...
It's like people like camp movies. Let's go too far in the wrong direction.
Yeah, too far in the wrong direction. Yeah. Has there ever been a film or a show that you've watched where you've genuinely felt too scared to be able to watch it all in one sitting?
I tried to watch a recent movie that came out, and I think it's called Skinamarink is the name of it, and it's Skinamarink, yeah, and it's low budget, and the idea behind it is that the guys that directed it said, if you woke up late one night and you heard your TV on downstairs and you went downstairs, this is what would be playing on the TV. So it's really experimental. It's just, the story is two kids wake up in the middle of the night and go downstairs and there's something in the house.
Right.
And so you just see these shots where it just slowly gets more and more disturbing, where there's these black and white grainy shots and the TV is on, and then you can hear a voice just saying like, open the door. And like, it's like an hour long, but it just kind of gets under your skin just because it's not a traditional 3-act structure. It doesn't even feel really like a movie. It just feels like a very long experimental YouTube video, but it just gets under your skin. It's just very weird.
There's a few that are like that though, because didn't Paranormal Activity start where there were some horror films that were made in a certain way so that people would ask the question afterwards, was that true or not?
Was that like Blair Witch Project?
Yes.
Like do you remember the Blair Witch Project growing up, and how that was like, everyone's like, this is real? But
again, that was parodied in Scary Movie. Yeah. And all I remember is the woman with her face right up to the camera and her nose is running uncontrollably. Oh, God,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another movie where they didn't really tell the cast what was going to happen. They just put them out into the woods and said, you're going to go here and film this scene. You're going to go there and film this scene. You're going to sleep in your tents at night and stuff will happen, but just stay in character. So they didn't even know. They were like screaming. They were playing like the sounds of like children laughing in the woods on speakers. So the actors were like, what the fuck? What is this? What is going on? They had no concept. So you can kind of get the weird fear from them.
Yeah. I guess because if they, in a way, it is real for them.
Yeah, 100%. Like they had no idea what was going to go on. You know, they were like,
no idea.
How far? They didn't even really know the directors that well. So they were like, are we just going to get murdered in the woods?
You
Is
have
that
to
what this
think
is?
who's agreeing to do that kind of stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it's for like a horror film,
Yeah.
but like we're basically just gonna put you in the woods and some stuff's gonna happen. You don't need to know what. It's not like a normal film. There's no script or anything.
Yeah, just desperate actors that are just like, I'll appear in anything. It's this or a tomato sauce commercial, and I'd rather do this.
The tomato sauce commercial would probably be more degrading.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless it's that Irish one that you said.
Yes, that one's great. Chef sauce.
Chef sauce.
Get it. Mix
Chef
it in with
sauce,
Club Orange.
Chef sauce 2, the massacring.
Yeah, but like horror is interesting because I try to think about like where horror, what the appeal of is for horror, and I think.
Do you think on some level you quite enjoy the sensation of being a little bit scared?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's a part of it that's the roller coaster vibe of like,
Sure.
oh my god, I'm getting really intense. And then hopefully, if it's a good movie, you're getting like commentary on society or a specific topic or something. Like Get Out was amazing.
Yeah.
There's a movie called Black Christmas that I had not seen until last Christmas, and it's from 1971, I think.
Oh, right.
And it's the first ever slasher movie, and it's so good because it's about a bunch of girls in this sorority in America.
Yeah.
And a guy basically sneaks into their attic, and the first thing he does is he kills one of the girls there and just leaves her in the attic. And then he starts harassing the girls in the sorority. He's like calling them up. If you've ever seen that classic like that urban legend of like the call is coming from inside the house. It's from this movie. I didn't realize it's from this movie. But they've got all these like really unique, interesting, full of depth female characters who make all the right decisions. Like immediately they all believe each other. They all go straight to the police. And of course
That's not what women do.
but the police are like, girls, just because a guy has a crush on you doesn't mean you could call the police on him. And they're like, and Margot Kidder's in it, and she's drunk the whole movie, like her character, and she's like literally while talking to the police takes a can of beer out and cracks it and is drinking behind them, and then starts swearing at this guy, like rips him a new butthole, just being like, we need to know where our friend is. You need to put out a report. And the movie's just, it's insanely good. Like I was just looking, going like, wow, this obviously at the time was about women getting like harassed by men just day to day, like in life. But it works really well nowadays as like women having to deal with hassle on the internet.
Sure.
Because even at the end of the movie, there's like a boyfriend of a character. I'm going to spoil the movie. You weren't going to watch it, but you might watch it now. Basically, at the end of the movie, there's a girl who, the main character is pregnant and she doesn't want to keep the baby, but her boyfriend wants her to keep it. And she's like, there's no deal. Like, I've made my decision.
Yeah.
And he starts to get more and more aggressive, more and more red flags. And at the end of the movie, he breaks into the house to try and see her, and she shoots him, and he dies. And you go, oh, but wait, was he the killer that was in the attic? Like, we've seen him just go crazy, or was he? What's the deal? And so all the police rush in, and they go, oh, that was the guy. And their reaction is like, well, that was the one bad man. We got him. Let's go. And like the father of one of the girls that's missing faints, and they all go, oh, this poor man. They pick him up and bring him to the hospital. Whoops. And the girl just like goes to bed. Like they just leave her in bed. She's in like a catatonic state, and they've given her morphine to calm her down. They're like, who this emotional woman. And then it just pans over and you see the attic open, and you're like, oh my God, her boyfriend wasn't the killer. There's another killer. Like the killer is still in the attic, is still in the house. And it just pans away from the shot. And then the shot is like from the attic where that girl is that got killed at the start of the movie. They still don't even know that she's dead at the end of the movie. They don't know. They still think she's missing. And then the end of the movie is the camera panning away and the phone rings. And he always rings the phone after he's murdered someone. So, you know, is the main character dead? Is that just somebody calling to check in because of what's happened? But it just felt like, it felt very much like saying, you know, no matter when somebody gets like rid of a creep, there's always another creep. There's always another creep to take the place. An endless amount of creeps out there that will just come out of the ether, come out of the darkness.
And there's always like unanswered questions at the end of a lot of horror films. So there was one that I think is called Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
And
that's good with Sam Raimi.
Spoiler, at the end, she does in fact get dragged to hell.
She does.
After she thinks that she's not going to get dragged to hell. And then the guy who's like with her is just left wondering, like, where has she gone?
Just like,
why was she dragged to hell? I thought she did everything right.
Yeah. She literally looks up at him screaming, ah! And then her eyes get pulled down by skeletons. And you're like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I want to see the movie after that where Justin Long is like, I don't know how to live my life.
I've been dragged to hell. Get me out of here. Yeah. But there's horror movies more than any other type of movie love like a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, they're not part of like some big franchise
They're
where
just like a one-off.
Yeah.
It's
like
just
if like in the Halloween films, if you see the guy like pop up at the end, even if you see him dead, by the time the police get there, even if he's been pinned to a tree by a car, the body's disappeared, and they're like, we don't know where he's gone.
Yeah, he gets pinned to a tree by a car, and Jamie Lee Curtis cuts off his head, and in the sequel they go, actually, that was a paramedic and not Michael Myers.
That was somebody else. Yeah. So they love a cliffhanger, but in those ones where it's like a one-off.
Yeah.
From what you've said, it's like the cliffhanger is actually a way to enhance like whatever like subtle message the film is trying to give out.
The first Halloween, the way that ends is it cuts from, it just has the music playing and she looks outside and he's gone, and then it just starts cutting to doorways, and in the doorways is just darkness, and and you start to hear his breathing, and so it just leaves you with that feeling of like, he could be anywhere, he could be any place, like it just gives you that weird vibe. I also think like, you know, I think lots of people in their life, you know, will have like traumatic things happen and awful shit. And then I think it's very difficult to watch a Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey comedy.
Yeah.
Right after, when you're going through like a difficult time in your life, or, you know, you've lost someone or something like that. And when you watch horror movies, they kind of present you with, most of them start with like a normal day where these people, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're just going for a drive.
They're just doing something normal.
And then the most horrific stuff happens for 90 minutes, which I think people really relate to when they're going through difficult times. Like seeing characters go through that. And then also at the end, there's always like a character that survives. And so I think people do find that comforting, that you get to see somebody go through all this trauma, all this tragedy, and at the end, they actually survive it.
Yeah.
They get out of there. You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre ends with her in the back of the car and she's laughing at him as she drives away and he's screaming with his chainsaw.
If you cut out a lot of the synopsis of the film, that is just a nice story about a girl who gets to ride in a limo for the first time.
Exactly.
That's just a nice thing.
Yeah.
I also think with horror films, there is something about allowing yourself to be scared and uncomfortable, but like in a very controlled way. Yeah. So like either you're at the cinema or you're watching it in your front room, you've chosen to watch something that you know is probably going to give you a fright or a scare or be a bit uncomfortable, but you've sort of like given yourself the permission to feel
stressed,
that type of way.
To feel terror,
And that might feel nicer than having to deal with like something that could happen in everyday life. Just something bad that happens, and sometimes it happens randomly as well. You have some control of when you start watching a horror film.
Yeah, you're basically microdosing panic.
You're microdosing panic.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you also, like, I think everyone watches a horror movie goes like, what would I do in that situation? And it's harder in some situations where it's like, well I'm never going to be a gremlin, so. Let's
talk about this, because lots of people do that where they put themselves in the shoes of whoever's in the show. There's someone on TikTok who is big into the Saw films.
Oh, yeah.
And does like a video about every trap. And they would go like, and the series is literally called something like, here's how I would escape from this Saw trap because I have a brain cell or something.
Yeah, I'm really smart. It's like, no, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that foresight at all.
She'll look at like the, I think there's one where his head is stuck in like a glass cube,
case,
and it's full with water. So he finds like an empty pen in his pocket or something, and he stabs himself through the throat through it so that he has something to breathe through until the water's disappeared.
I get you, yeah.
Or there's the famous one, which is like the big bear thing trap that goes on the mouth, the bear trap.
It's an inside-out bear trap that opens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like to find the key that opens it, it's like, oh, you have to like dig behind your eyeball.
Yes.
And they don't even give you like he'll give you like a spork to do it with. And just be like, I wouldn't hesitate. Obviously, I would dislodge my eyeball.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't break the optic nerve at the back. I'd make sure it's still connected. I would take out the key and then I'd unlock it and then I would win. And I was like, I don't think that is what happened.
You'd spend a half an hour going, is this some sort of Japanese game show I'm on? Is this cake? Am I cake? What is this? What's going on here?
Someone just trying to eat the bear trap from the inside.
Well, I've broken all my teeth, so this isn't cake. Okay. I want to see them do a Saw movie where it's like very low stakes stuff. Like it's like, oh, you need to get the key, but I've put it at the bottom of this carton of mushrooms. And the person's just like, no, I don't like the consistency.
I don't love it.
I feel that they're touching me. Oh.
There's a key card to open the door, but I put them at the bottom of a very full bin that's full of bin juice.
Bin juice.
And it's not Club Orange.
To get out of here, you simply need to answer us, what bin goes out this week? Oh, shit. Can I just drink the bin juice? That's easier. I'm trying to remember that.
I'll actually cut off an arm. I would rather do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Try and figure that out.
Is there any final thoughts you have about horror films? And I connect to your feelings. I feel like we covered a lot there.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. I was going to talk about books and podcasts and stuff. I didn't even get to that. So we can make this horror movies. That way, I'm not stealing horror from
We focus a lot on horror movies because I think that's probably what a lot of people maybe first think.
Yeah. When you say horror, it's not just talking about world events.
No.
They're like, oh my God.
The news.
I just love it. I love it checking out the 6 o'clock news and having a little cry.
Well, that was a lovely chat. We've got one last bit to do.
Okay.
And that is quickfire feelings.
Okay.
So I've got some random topics here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say them to you and you just tell me how they make you feel.
Okay.
Whatever comes to your soul first.
All right. I can do this.
First thing, we ask this to everybody. How do you feel about dark chocolate?
Hate it.
Thank you.
Hate it so much. Don't get it. My partner loves it. She loves it so much and I just don't know why.
So many people have said that they like it on this show and it surprises me every time.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Give me a little milky.
Yeah, I like the milk in the milk chocolate is the best part.
Yes.
I mean, that's why some people will have chocolate with milk.
Well, if I'm having a hot chockey,
yeah,
I've got my velvetizer. Mm-hmm. And so I don't mind, if it's all that's available, I will have a 70%.
Yeah.
Normally I'll do 50.
Well, you can add the milk in yourself.
Well, that's the thing. You add in the milk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're in control.
I like, do you ever go for Withered's fancy hot chocolate?
I don't think it gets fancier than Hotel Chocolat.
Oh, really?
Real chocolate.
Oh,
chocolate.
I think you might be wrong. I think Withered's is pretty good. They do a raspberry
have had
ripple.
Withered's before. Withered's used to do a lovely tea, an instant tea.
Yeah.
Odd, but it tasted very nice. It was like a wintry. I think it was like a mulled wine flavor, but it was tea, and it tasted very nice.
That seems good. I've tried vanilla rooibos is a tea I like.
Is it rooibos?
I think it's rooibos, isn't it? I don't know why I looked at Ewan. Ewan doesn't know. Ewan's a baby. He's a baby. He doesn't know.
He's never had a rooibos or a rooibos.
I thought it was rooibos. Maybe I'm wrong. People,
you're probably right.
No, do you know what? This is engagement for the podcast now. Please write in the comments
Leave a comment below.
Is it rooibos?
Or rooiboo?
Or rooiboo? That's my drag queen name, Rooiboo.
Rooiboo.
Rooiboo. The people love to boo me. And they'll rue the day. Okay, yes, dark chocolate is horrible.
That's your feelings on dark chocolate. You have linked a lot of this back to drag, which I think is very wholesome.
Yes.
How do you feel about Marvel versus DC?
Oh, I couldn't care less. I mean, I like the Marvel movies. I'll watch them.
Sure.
I like I don't like Batman. There's only one Batman I've ever liked, which was when I was a kid. There was an animated series that came out, and it was great. And it was really fun show, and it still stands up to this day.
Yeah.
It's great. But I never liked the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I didn't like the Ben Affleck ones. I've never seen. There's a new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. I've never seen it. I'm just like,
no, neither have I.
Not into them. I mean, they just seemed. The Flash movie, I was like, this is awful.
Well, I think there was some problematic things about the guy who was in it, and so then it was like a whole thing. Like, do we do this?
Yeah, and then at that point, you can be like, just don't do it.
And then you've got Gal Gadot doing Wonder Woman. Yeah. Recent stuff aside. She's not
a great actress at the best of times.
No.
I think the whole cast, and then like also Ben Affleck just didn't want to be in it, and the guy
sure didn't.
Superman, I think, was also like, I'm in it. No, I'm not. Or I am Superman. Or
Do
I'm
I
not.
have a beard or do I not?
I know. Just grow the goddamn beard. Just put a Superman beard.
Just shave.
I think a beard on Superman would have been amazing.
Yeah.
They could have dug him up from the ground and he could have been like, turns out Kryptonians grow a beard when they die.
Is that a Kryptonian thing? That's why they don't have facial hair?
But because when they grow their facial hair, I think they've done it in the comics before where he has to like shave with like a laser.
You've just reminded me, but we'll go on to the other one. But there is a edition of the Superman comic where he encounters something called pink kryptonite.
Yes.
Which makes him gay.
Oh, I remember seeing it in they must have redone it in the Smallville show where they redid it. He encountered pink kryptonite, or maybe it was red kryptonite, but it just made him a silly goose. They didn't go as far as...
Oh, he's being a silly goose on that dick. He loses all interest in Lois Lane and then like starts developing feelings for like someone that he worked at the Daily Express with.
Was it Jimmy?
I think so.
I hope it was Jimmy. I would like to see Jimmy.
I'm sure some people have written a fanfic or two.
There's 100% pictures of Jimmy and Clark Kent. Who would you rather see Jimmy with, Clark Kent or Superman? Both. I guess would be.
It depends who's got stuck under the bed and, you know, who's the stepdad of who.
Yeah.
Know.
I think Superman is definitely the stepdad, but I could also imagine Clark Kent being like, Jimmy, help.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in the washing machine. How?
That there is a niche for that for like sort of like smaller men. We'll move on. That's fine. We don't need to discuss
This is a private podcast.
Yeah, no. How do you feel about loose women? Interpret that prompt as you will.
The show, I don't like the TV show because it feels like it's part of like ITV's weird deal to try and radicalize old people through daytime TV. Mm-hmm. Like there's a whole thing in the UK where it's like, you know, oh, hey, welcome to This Morning. This morning we'll be talking about this and are drag queens trying to tell spooky stories to your kids in school?
Children have food 3 times a day.
It's very funny that recently in Ireland, since November, the kind of right-wing thing that happened with Brexit and with Trump in the UK and Trump in America has been trying to happen in Ireland. Grifters have been going into Ireland and a lot of them are funded from like people in America and the UK, like right-wing groups, but they're trying to get angry and they were like... People obviously were just looking at information about the UK and America, and so they started talking about like, oh, we need to keep drag queens out of our schools because they're trying to go into schools and read to kids, and there's no Irish drag queens were doing that. Right. So Irish drag queens had to come out and be like, we don't give a shit about your ugly kids. We don't want to read stories to them. We don't give a fuck about them. No, thank you.
Your ugly kids you can't read.
Yeah, your ugly, stupid kids. We don't care.
That's lovely.
That's perfect.
Kids need to be taken down a notch or two.
Yeah. Well, ones with terrible parents.
Yeah, sure.
They need to get angry at their parents. It's like, thanks a lot, Mom. I got fucking roasted by Victoria's Secret.
Rui Boo roasted us for not being able to read. I think I was running out of topics. How do you feel about gilets?
Gilets. I don't understand it. I don't understand it because it's
just
like...
Just get a sleeve.
Get sleeves.
Just get a sleeve.
I've seen ones that have the zip there and it's like, well, just come on. You get a jacket. Clearly you're worried about the future potential of your arms getting cold.
Yeah. If it helps, you can pronounce it jacket. Yeah. So it's still fun to say gilet, jacket.
Yeah.
Finally, what have I written here? How do you feel about someone who after a gig comes up to you and says, hey, I've actually done a little bit of stand-up myself. I've actually tried it 1 or 2 times. Yeah.
That's it? That's all they say?
That's all they say.
That's not the most annoying. I mean, I did a 40-minute headline set in Kirkcaldy once and it was a lovely gig. And then a woman came up at the end and she was like, oh, that was great. Would you do it again? And I said, yeah, if I have another show next year, I might bring back the different show next year.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I mean, would you do stand-up again? And I went, what? And she's like, was that not your first time? And I went, you think my first time was headlining?
Oh, some people are interesting.
Headlining, doing 40 minutes, doing crowd work and having a callback in the narrative. You thought I just went on and I was that confident immediately.
I hosted a gig in Dundee and someone afterwards said like, oh, you were great. You know, you should really give comedy a try. Because they only think the people doing the sets are the ones who are actually comedians and the host is just pleasant.
Yeah.
I'm actually very difficult off stage.
Yeah.
It was really a lot of effort for me.
I got a similar thing once hosting for Monkey Bar, and it was like a lovely night, and a guy came off and came to the comedians and went, "You were all amazing. You were all amazing. Oh, and you were good at what you do too. You should try. You should try what they do." And I was like,
Yeah.
All right,
Great suggestion.
Great suggestion. Do you know what? I might just do that.
I think you should give it a go.
I might try it.
If the drag thing doesn't work out, you should try stand up.
Yeah, imagine just going up to drag queens afterwards, going just like.
I've tucked it up there once.
I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
A meaty tuck a couple of times.
Well, on that note of a meaty tuck, that brings us to the end of the episode. George, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. I mean, this didn't even feel like a podcast. This just felt
Didn't
like
it just
hanging
feel
out.
like a fun time?
Just a fun, silly goose time.
Fun time.
Drinking Club Orange.
Between two young teenage men exploring themselves and their feelings.
Having weird nightmares about Freddy Krueger.
Is there anything that you would like to plug before we let you go?
Yeah, if you enjoy hanging out and seeing me, you can see me hosting the 5 o'clock show every weekend and Saturdays at Monkey Barrel Comedy in Edinburgh. And if you don't live in Edinburgh and you want to see me every Sunday to Thursday, every night Sunday to Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Irish and UK time, I'm on www.twitch.tv/Fox Comedy, where I stream for about 2 hours and do silly stuff, play horror video games, watch silly things. Sometimes we go ghost hunting. We'll watch people's ghost hunting videos, and they're awful. No one in chat believes in ghosts, and we just want to see how bad this is. And one time somebody put up a video and they were like, "Oh, is this Bigfoot in the woods?" And we found other footage that was higher res, and it's a man in like a hunting ghillie suit taking a shit next to a river.
Okay.
And a boat was just going by. And so the reason he starts waving is he's like, "Stop filming me. Stop, get out of here." Oh, I just knocked myself out with this. He's like, "Get out of here." Screamed at them.
He's not waving, going like, "Hi, I'm over here." Yeah, shit. I'm taking a shit right now.
But they're like, in the other footage, they've grained it up. So they're like, "Is this Bigfoot asking for help from humans?" It's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. So
that sounds lovely.
That's a lot of fun. So yes, if you want to come in there on Twitch, we have a lot of fun. I've recently been watching the show Frasier again, and I realized in the show he says he has a radio show that lasts for 2 hours 5 nights a week, and I was like, oh my god, that's what I do. Me and Frasier are the same, except for our political views, but we're the same.
Niles is a costume party. Yeah. Lovely stuff. We'll definitely go check all of that out. You can follow the show at I've Had a Rosé on all platforms. We hope to see you again for another episode very soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Make sure you leave a comment about Roybus.
Roy Boo.